from 2020 to 2022, everything we touched just was crazy. And do you know what I think about most nights and most mornings? It's like, all right, let's make sure that property 1, 2, and 3 is on track. Look, I'm a simple guy. My investment thesis has always been to double my money. Started with $25,000 in 2016 and have doubled my way to where I am, almost like linearly. There's been a little bit of zigzagging. Hey guys, what's up? It's Clint. Thank you for tuning in to the first episode of the Messy Million podcast. Hey, listen, if you are a real estate or a land investor who simply put feels like you're working harder to make less money in your current business, I think you're really going to enjoy this episode today. We're going to talk about some of the new strategies we've added on to our existing business. And hey, if you like it, do me a big favor and subscribe to the podcast so we know to make more episodes. All right, jumping into the episode. Enjoy. All right. Jeremy, how long is it going to take you to grow that beard all the way back out?
I don't know for sure. We could take bets on it if you want. I know you're a gambling man.
I am a gambling man.
But by the time it's warm again, I'm gonna look like my old self.
By the time it's warm?
Yeah, give me till springtime. I'm gonna look like a mountain man again. The mountain man you've grown to know and love.
The mountain man I'm accustomed to. Well, you're gonna want to cut it about that time again, though.
We'll see. Maybe.
The cycles. Well, I'm glad we're here. We finally got to doing a podcast.
I know we've been talking about this for too long, like a really long time.
And we are just stuck doing deals.
I know. Yeah, we were talking about that before. Like that, it's, we've been talking about this, and the ideas constantly evolve, but the reason we have been putting it off is always the same. Like, oh, well, we just got this new deal. We love it. It's really good. Let's just finish this next deal, and then we'll get to it. And like over and over and over and over again, all these new and exciting deals.
Well, it's been fun, and that's what we are here to talk about is what we've been up to for the last year and a half almost. And boy, I don't know about you, but I did land for 7 or 8 years, and I had some good stories. But the amount of stories that we collectively have gathered over the past 18 months has been remarkable.
And remarkable, I mean, that's almost underselling it. Like every week, new people, new situations, new problems. It's never ending. I love it.
Like right before we started recording, we were talking about Ernesto's translator, who was talking all sorts of shit about you because he didn't want to split the solar loan savings with them.
Yeah.
And we thought the solar loan savings was going to be a few grand. It ended up being 30 grand that we knocked off this loan. And now we got to cut these guys $15,000 check, but that's okay. Okay. It's 15,000 in our pockets too.
I know. Yeah. It's great. And that's one of the key things that's different about the work that we're doing now that we're going to be talking about in this mini series, is that we spend so much more of our time engaging with property owners, people that we are under contract with, to progress the deal, to solve problems, to add value to the equation. In the past, we spent 80 to 90% of our time just on marketing, getting somebody under contract. And like, if you get to pick where you're spending your time, adding value, having high quality conversations with people to make their lives better, or marketing to people who, 99 times out of 100 don't want to talk to you in the first place, what are you going to choose?
Stick around for the next 15 minutes if you want to hear a very interesting text thread we had with somebody, which we'll go over. But man, I just want to jump in and tell everybody who's listening before we get started here. You probably heard a little in the intro, but this is going to be, we actually don't know what it's going to be. We just wanted to start something. We know people like to hear about deals and hear what we're up to. So we're just going to jump right in and do this thing. If you don't know Jeremy's one of my business partners, and he has been the primary operator for our distressed acquisition, messy title, complex deal side of the business that we added on for the last 18 months. And he's decent to look at and talk to. So he's going to be along for the ride here as co-host of the Messy Millions. Today, and really all of these episodes, we're going to just talk about deals. We were trying to figure out what do we want to make a piece of media about? What do we want to make a podcast about? And we figured all we talked about is deals, so we might as well just talk more about deals. And just kind of give you guys a first-hand look into what it looks like behind the scenes running this type of business. A lot of you listening to this have been following me for a while. You probably know who I am. If you don't, started flipping land in 2016. Did a bunch of flips, worked my way up to doing subdivide, development deals, and as the market's changed and shifted over the last few years, we've been looking for ways to adapt our business. And this line of business that we jumped into, I'm really, really excited to talk more about. And Jeremy, I'll let you give your own kind of background, but litigator, lawyer, counselor Nash is what I call him, as well as a land flipper. So go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, I was, before I got into land investing, I was a lawyer, and I've been a lawyer for over 20 years now. Most of that time I was doing nothing remotely related to real estate. But still, I learned how to think like a lawyer, and it served me well in the work that we're doing now. I got into land a little after you. I think it was 2019 that I formed my LLC and did a traditional high volume land flipping business. And then you and I started working together a few years ago. Initially, I hired you as my coach. We did some one-on-one coaching together, and I hung around, and eventually we linked up. But yeah, that's the short version of who I am and what I'm doing here today.
Jeremy is an asset on this side of the business, and another reason I wanted to have him here is just a lot of nuance to some of the stuff we're doing. And if it makes you feel any better, and if anybody's looking to start doing this kind of stuff, you don't have to be a lawyer. You really got to be a deal maker. I think you got to be able to hire a lawyer every now and then. But yeah, you don't have to be, you don't have to be lawyer extraordinaire in order to be successful over here. But it does give you a little bit of help for sure. So glad to have you here, man. I wanted to start by talking about just a little bit on how the market has shifted over the last, 2 or 3 years, right?
I mean, I don't know exactly, but that is the perfect prelude into this storytelling miniseries, because the reason, I remember us talking about this in like August, September last year. And I think the reason we made the commitment to go all in on exploring this new strategy is because the market had tightened up and we were having so much trouble finding subdivide opportunities that actually penciled out, right? And that was, and it is again more recently, but it was a very lucrative line of business that over a short period of time almost completely dried up.
Yeah, from 2020 to 2022, everything we touched just was crazy. I mean, we were making the most money I've ever made in my career in land in those years. And then 2022 came, and 2022, 2023, and that business of buying acreage and chopping it down into smaller rural tracts, which we did a lot of. It really, the market, the margins weren't penciling. I don't have the exact reason why, but I think it was kind of just lagging. Like, landowners are generally, they're demographic, older, slower to adapt. And so when the market kind of like shifted overnight through COVID, it took a year or two for sellers to really kind of understand. Like, it took them seeing their neighbor's tract selling at 3 times what they thought it would, and hearing about it over the local church luncheon or whatever it is. It really took that amount of time for for a lot of sellers and owners to understand that the values went up. So there was a big arbitrage for a couple of years there of buying some. Hell, you go buy something on market, cut it up into 4 or 5 pieces, and sell it for 2 times what you bought it for on market. I mean, we've done a lot of those deals, and interestingly enough, starting to see some of those come up again. But anyway, it was a very lucrative line of business in that time frame, and then the margins really just, like, sellers kind of, their sentiment caught up. They realized that their properties were worth 2 or 3 times what they used to be, and the 2-year boom started to kind of fall off, and so we saw less activity in the market, more inventory at higher prices. That's, in my opinion, what kind of created this jam in the marketplace. And it'll work itself out over time, but the land market is just slow. And so, to your point, like, we needed something that we could pivot to, frankly, just to pay the bills and keep the lights on. And the traditional flipping model of buy data, send mail, do deals. A lot of people doing that. Definitely not impossible to do, but um, through what we've done and through our experience, it just kind of seemed like let's explore and see what else is out there. And I'm interested in your take as I was back then thinking about how do we need to adapt to this business. I was starting to think to a few deals I had done over the last long period of time, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years prior, that were kind of the quintessential messy title deal. And at the time I did them, I wasn't trying to do them. I just did it out of necessity. I bought a property that had some issues, had to go fix the issues. And I thought about that a lot over the years of like, man, those were some of my best deals, best margins, highest profit. Why don't I go and target those? Well, things get in the way, blah, blah, blah. But here we are looking for a way to pivot and adapt our business. And that's kind of what we jumped to.
Before we started doing this, the messiest deals I had done are nothing like what we're doing now. I remember, it was, the property's in a trust. I was like, I think I can figure this out, or, the wife passed away, right? They didn't probate the estate. Oh God, maybe I can do it. Maybe I can't. So I was really like, when we got into these deals at the end of last year, I was drinking from the fire hose because it was new for me from top to bottom. And it turned out like, I don't even remember exactly what our expectations were, but it's turned into like, in my mind, I don't know how you think about it, but for the deals that we're doing, I've got this new strategy side by side in my mind to the subdivide deals. Like they are equally important pillars in the business now. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, just like it used to be flipping, right? Flipping properties to pay the bills and doing some bigger deals to, really hit a lick, as the old timers say, to make a bunch of money at one time, to get a big check. I would love to just keep doing the same thing that we were doing because I got all the scripts, I got all the media, I got everything. Like I push a button and we'd have, deals out our ears. But it was like I'm a simple guy. My investment thesis has always been to double my money. All right.
Right.
Started with $25,000 in 2016 and have doubled my way to where I am, almost like linearly. There's been a little bit of zigzagging, but there's almost a straight line from where it was there to where it is now, however many years later. And I just continue to look for those opportunities where I can put $1 in and I can get $1.50 or $2 back, right? In a short period of time with relatively low risk. Are 75% returns with low risk too much to ask for? I don't know. Some people seem to think so, but
yeah, it depends on who you're talking to.
In my mind, it's like we know how to do these deals. There's got to be a way to remanufacture these kind of returns, and that's the expensive and timely lesson that we've spent over the last 12 months and made a bunch of mistakes and spent a bunch of money on stuff we didn't need and also lucked into some things we did need. And, looking back on the other side of it, I can confidently say like, this was the fix. This is the pivot that we needed to replace the returns that were lost in our traditional flipping business. Because I didn't want to spend $30,000 a month on marketing anymore to maybe get a deal. That's just like, I don't know, to me, and with all the AI tools and everything coming out, it seems like there's got to be a better way. And almost primarily, unless it's like a deal we're funding or something else, this is our short-term cycle deals that we do. We're looking for deals like this. I think it'll be interesting for people to learn over the next little bit. We spend no money on marketing. So whatever your marketing budget is, I've done this for a long time. However many hours of sleep you lose every night about, am I going to get a deal out of that budget? We don't have that anymore. Made the intentional decision a couple years to stop, right? And so, yeah, I mean, I'm just really excited to jump in and talk to you a little bit more about this side of the business.
Before we get into it, there's even more to like about this as compared to land flipping. Like land flipping is great, and it's a business model that works. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to. I mean,
you couldn't do what we're doing now, I don't think, without just flipping deals before. whether it's flipping houses, wholesaling houses, or flipping land, I think very unlikely that low likelihood of success if you have not done any real estate deals and then you want to start doing really complex real estate deals.
Yeah,
Probably
I
not going to
I
work.
agree with that. Either land or other types of flips, you would greatly benefit from having some kind of foundation in real estate. But to hit the numbers that we're now hitting in this new strategy, flipping land, is really hard today. You already talked about how much you got to spend on marketing. I mentioned a few minutes ago how much of your time you're going to be spending talking to basically cold leads. But past all of that, land is relatively illiquid, right?
Mhm.
So you get a deal, you do all the hard work, you get lucky, you find somebody who's willing to sell at a reasonably below market price, and you turn around and you list it, and you go to sell it, it could take you easily 9 months. Sometimes you get lucky and it's a 3 month turn. Sometimes you get unlucky and it's 15 months. The deals that we're doing now are super high quality assets that once we have it under control and we list it, like the last property we listed in the first 48 hours, our realtor got like 40 plus phone calls, right? The cash conversion cycles, listen, I'm painting with a broad brush, but the cash conversion cycles for land are long and it's cyclical, but they're still pretty long right now. And what we're doing right now, they're so much shorter and it's a huge relief.
And honestly, just got to say, like, it's a lot of houses in
Yeah.
infill property, which is not what we're used to. But there was one thing I said is I'm not going to any stinky houses. And we haven't stepped foot in a single one of these properties. But I think the most that we've done from a value add component is find the local cleaning crew and pay them a couple $100 to go trash a property out and mow the
No,
yard.
no, I didn't tell you this, but we put a new vanity, new bathroom sink and a vanity in a house last week.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, it was like $825, but there was no sink. There was nothing
Ah.
there. And the realtor was like, I know you guys don't rehab, but let's put a sink in the bathroom. I'm like, okay.
All right, go do it. And what, did her husband do it or something?
She found somebody. But
That's
your point still holds. Like people think, oh, houses, you got to go, you got to walk the property. The underwriting is really difficult and crazy. In our experience, we're getting in at a really low cost basis. None of that is true. We don't have to go look at them in person. It's just like land in this respect. You don't need to set foot on the property. Anything that needs to happen on site, there is somebody who can go and do that for you.
And look, in this market and 2025, one thing that scares me, like I'm a gambling man. Like I like to get some money out there. What I don't like is having assets that have the potential to sit on my balance sheet for a really long period of time. Don't get me wrong, like high risk, high reward, whatever, right? I got a couple of those in my balance sheet right now where I got a lot of money into them. And do you know what I think about most nights and most mornings? Is like, all right, let's make sure that property one, two, and three is on track. Because, like, we're in I don't know what you even call this political and uh, economic environment we're in right now. But the last thing I would call it is stable. And at any point, there's a lot of things that point to recession or something. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. But what I do know is when it does happen, because it's inevitable, when it does happen, whether it's in 2 months or 2 years or 10 years or whatever it is, I don't want to have stuff on my balance sheet it's going to be worth half and I might not even be able to move it. Right. And so my exposure on truly vacant land with not a lot of utility purpose, I want that exposure to go down or remain at a level, right? I lose absolutely 0 hours I lose like a 15 or 20 minutes of sleep over the deals that we're doing on this side of the business. And mostly it's just like, how much do we owe that attorney? Or it's like little things, right? It's not, I've got $1.2 million in this property over here. And boy, do I hope I can sell it all off before something in the market shifts or before my lenders call or before I run out of time on my seller finance contract. Like there's a lot of stuff that in this market environment makes me want to have less chips on the table that I could lose, right? And I think focusing on deals like we're doing, and listen, a quality asset is generous. It's a quality asset compared to land. It's a house with a roof over it and in an area where a lot of people live, right?
That's fair. That's fair. But my I guess quality was the wrong word. It is a significantly more liquid asset than
Yeah.
vacant land, you know,
Yep.
in major markets typically. Right? And people always talk about with land, you've got no downside risk. The land, it's always going to be there. Nothing's going to happen to it. Yeah, well, in a business where the speed of money is so critically important, like a real estate flipping business, having an asset that is not liquid actually is kind of a big problem, you know. And I have like 8, 9, or 10 properties from my land flipping days. I still like, you know, they're still on the books. It's not a lot. It's not a huge amount of money, but it's, you know, there's only so much you can do to move land in certain markets.
I just typed into ChatGPT. I said, "What happened to rural land values during the 2008 recession?" Its general takeaway, splitting it into different types of land values, but if it was recreational and rural residential, had a significant decline in demand and price drops typically in the 30 to 60%. That's what GPT gave me. Um, and that's very similar to what I've heard from people who were in the industry at that time is you're taking immediately, if you need to liquidate, you're taking 50% haircuts. And that's fine. Like if you have 100 deals that you win on and you lose on 5 or 10 of them, that's okay. But if you have 100 deals you win on and you have another 200 deals you're trying to do and like all your chips come off the table, right? And so I think it is more important now than ever to make sure your balance sheet and your risk adjusted returns are, where you want them to be. And I feel a lot more confident having cash in the bank and having it deployed into a house in a growing market where someone can live or land in like an infill utility type. Someone can build a warehouse, somebody can build houses, somebody can do something of value, right? When I'm looking at rural vacant land these days, I'm really considering like, simply put, how long is it going to sit? How long am I going to have it, right? And if I can't get it at a deep enough discount, I would rather pump money back into what we're doing on this side of the business to go find more opportunities versus let us sit in that, which is kind of crazy for somebody who has sold a lot of land courses in their day to say, but I think it's the truth.
Yeah, listen, we still look for land deals, and you're still doing a ton of big land deals. And we're super excited about this new stuff. So we're like, but we're still doing land deals. This is another arrow in the quiver. Knowing how to do these deals, knowing how to do a variety of different deal types, means that as we encounter cycles, some of which we can see coming, some of which we can't, you have the ability, without missing a step, to pivot or at least change the mix of deals that you're doing. And I'm not an old hat by any means at real estate investing, but I've been in it long enough to know that that's critical if you intend to stick with it for the long term. So that's the
The one
perspective.
one thing that I think we need that everybody would need to have if you want to be persistent and have a viable business long term is you have to add real value, right? There's a lot of people who talk about land and they think that sending out marketing to buy properties at a discount is adding value. That's not adding any value. The value that you might add is you close quickly and on time, which a lot of you suckers who are trying to wholesale properties, you're just intentionally misleading owners, which I think is a whole nother conversation, but you're not really adding value. There's a small subset of people, right place, right time, that if you can give them cash quickly, you can solve a problem for them and you can acquire property. That's a great way to add value, but don't overestimate what you're doing. You're not doing anything more than that, right? And as the marketing arbitrage goes down, your ability and the cost it's going to take you to find that person is going to go way up, right? The cost it's going to take for you to find that person, right place, right time, is going to go through the roof. And so you have to find ways to actually add value. And one way that, like we've talked about for the last couple of years, is subdivides and developments and entitlements. There's true value being added in that respect. And I think we found on this side of the business as well. I mean, I've never been thanked so much for buying a property below market value. I've never been sent so many texts and Easter pictures and blessings to your family and how's your daughter doing type messages until we started doing this. Occasionally I would get thanks for helping us in a tough spot. But in the back of their mind, I know they're like, you ripped me off, but that's fine.
Dude,
On this side of the business.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's funny you mentioned that because I was having a conversation with somebody we're doing a deal with right now. And he sent me, I mean, I won't show you my phone, but it's a wall of text. And the thrust of it was that we were a godsend for him and his partner. They had gone through 3 other, we buy houses for cash type investors, none of whom could get through the airship and the clouds on title and the UCC statement and all the other things that were encumbering the property. And these guys are hard up for money. They're in a really tough place right now and are in desperate need of whatever cash they can pull out of the property. And I think there's a notary at their house right now picking up the last deed. We're going to close. I'm going to pay them later today, and it's going to get done. And they could not be happier. And were we getting a good deal on the property? Yeah, we're getting a phenomenal deal on the property. But they're still thrilled because they were at risk of losing the property, a tax sale. They just got served with their tax lawsuit a couple of weeks ago. And I'm not exaggerating. Like 1,000 words thanking us for what we're doing, coming in, solving the problems, and getting it done.
And we'll make $40,000 or $50,000 on that deal.
Yep.
So there's real value being added. And when you're adding real value, again, I go back to sleeping well at night. It makes me sleep better at night, knowing there's a line of business we're doing where there's a true amount of value being added, right? And over the next however many episodes of this thing we'll do, the listeners, they'll get to hear about all the deals. They'll get to see all the ways that we're adding value, all the unique little things that some we planned on and some we lucked into or some we learned along the way. But that's another reason I really, really like this deal. There's a lot of opportunity when the deals get difficult. There's a lot of opportunity when titles get encumbered, when properties, for some reason or another, can't go through a traditional sales cycle. It allows us to come in and add some real value.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love it. Nothing like that had ever happened to me, flipping land. You buy the property, take possession, and you never hear from the sellers again.
Any other high-level things we want to talk about before we jump in and start talking about deals?
Yeah, if you let me, I could talk for 6 days straight on all the high-level wonderful things about it, but we shouldn't. I think we should get into the deals.
All right, after a little discussion, I think we've talked for so long on this episode that we're just going to make this an intro episode. So if you guys like this, if you like what we're talking about, Jeremy just told me that he could talk for another 6 hours just about this kind of stuff. If you're interested in what we're working on, what we're doing, subscribe to this podcast. We don't know how many episodes we're going to do, but it is going to be fun if you like this kind of talk. Starting on the next episode, we're going to go over the biggest deal we've done to date. How we found it, all the nuances on how we got the deal done, what we learned from it. And we're probably going to do that just in just about every episode from here on out until we get up to $1 million, until we show you the first $1 million we've made on this side of the business. So it'll be fun. I think we got 10 or 15 episodes probably we can do here. And Jeremy, I don't know what this podcast is going to turn into after that, but it'll be a fun start.
Even if we just do the first $1 million, I'll be completely satisfied. But listen, if you folks, the folks listening, if they subscribe in massive numbers and we get some real interest, we'll keep it going. We'll let the people tell us what to do next.
If we get 2,500 subscribers, I think that might be low. I don't know. If we get 2,500 subscribers over the first 10 or 15 episodes, then we will agree now that we'll find a way to pivot this. But thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate it. And yeah, see you in the next one. Peace out.